On today's episode of the Information Podcast, we have seminarians Spencer and Jared join us to talk about the National Eucharistic Congress. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone, to episode 3 of the Information Podcast, where we have here Jared Miller from the Diocese of Savannah and Spencer Grant from the Diocese of St. Petersburg. And today we're going to be talking about the National Eucharistic Congress. And all of us actually had the opportunity to go to the Congress and to be a participant, to serve in the liturgies, to be a witness and a follower of not only the Eucharist, but of this great event for the Church of the United States. And so our conversation is just going to be about that. But before we go into those details, I'm going to let Jared and Spencer kind of explain who they are a little bit and what year formation they're in and just a little bit about them. So I'll let Jared go first and we'll go for Spencer after.
Yeah, hello. My name is Jared Miller. Like you said, I'm from the Diocese of Savannah in Georgia. I guess my hometown in Savannah is St. Mary's, Georgia. It's like on the state line of Florida, Georgia. It's in the southeast corner of the state. I'm in third configuration stage here. So this is my 6th year of seminary formation. Yeah, it's been great. I've enjoyed every minute of it. It's been awesome. A little bit of background about myself a little bit before entering seminary. I kind of want to do carpentry. So I competed in carpentry when I was in high school. Just kind of thought that's where the Lord wanted me to go. But by my senior year of high school, I decided to go to seminary. So, yeah.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, as Gabe said, my name is Spencer Grant from the Diocese of St. Petersburg, just like Michael here. Born and raised in Tampa, Florida, and joined the seminary back in 2020. Took a leave of absence in 2022 and just came back this year just in time for the Eucharistic Congress, and now am resuming my first year in configuration stage. And so, yeah, excited to be here.
Nice, thank you. So I guess the first question for all of us is, did you know what the Eucharistic Congress was before you were told, you're going to be participating, you're going to be joining the Congress? Because I think there's some dioceses out there that have their own Eucharistic Congress. I don't know if St. Petersburg has or Savannah has. Does Savannah have their own Eucharistic Congress?
Yeah, our bishop did a listening session and stuff around the diocese.
Yeah. So I know when I had the conversation with my vocations director, I was very excited and kind of knowing okay, I'm going to be a part of something to this magnitude. So I don't know, what was your first impressions in being told, you're going to be going, unless it was required for you guys?
Yeah, I actually didn't know the extent of the actual Congress itself. So I didn't really have any expectations going in. I just kind of so yeah, I'm open to going. And myself and Fred came from the Diocese of Savannah with a group from the whole diocese. I think it's kind of interesting that the Diocese of Savannah is 90 counties, so it's a large land area, and it's just kind of beautiful to see the amount of people from different parts of the diocese itself meeting in Indiana. And so it's kind of a beautiful reality of seeing the diocese one in one area. Yeah, that was a really beautiful moment of seeing that amongst just being within the diocese itself.
Thanks.
Yeah, we sort of had a Eucharistic encounter. We called it a Eucharistic encounter in our diocese about a year before this happened, and we had sort of the same structure. There's Eucharistic adoration, there's Mass, there's guest speakers. We had pretty awesome guest speakers. I remember we had John Bergsma, we had Mother Olga, who was at the National Eucharistic Congress, and so I kind of had a vague idea of the structure of it. I think what surprised me most of all was just the sheer magnitude of it and just how giant it was of an event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I would say too, so last year, the summer before my first year of seminary, I got to experience the World Youth Day in Portugal. So seeing the world church and now being able to see America's church and just seeing how alive, and the number of young people who attended, I think, is what stood out to me the most in that initial going, not really knowing what to expect in the Eucharistic Congress because I wasn't able to go to our Eucharistic encounter in our diocese. So just being able to be like going in completely blank, not knowing, having no expectations, but just being open and excited about it was quite an experience. How about you, Gabe?
Honestly, when I was first told and kind of the expectation of it, I don't know if it's like a good thing, bad thing, but if for those who know what the Sikh conference is, I kind of took that experience and said, well, it's going to be like maybe 10 times larger, a couple times, just a bigger version of that. And for a very basic structure of it, it sort of was. But again, it was just the larger church of America being present in Indianapolis. I didn't know necessarily what to expect apart from knowing there's going to be conferences, there's going to be adoration, just the different sessions throughout the day, the expo. But there was sort of a personal intention I brought into it. Obviously, just a greater desire and a deeper relationship with the Eucharist as like what I wanted to put into my prayer, sort of offer for my time there as like a, like if I'm being called forth to Indianapolis, just be present for this event within the church, I'm going to sort of offer something else, part of it. And so I don't know, apart from expecting something in terms of like the logistics of the whole conference, was there anything that you sort of had in your prayer or sort of anything that you kind of brought to the Congress and to the Lord in those days to sort of say, hey, I'm offering this? But was there anything in your prayer?
Yeah, I kind of came into it bringing my vocation to the Lord. This was the first big seminarian event that I took part in since being back in formation. And of course, natural qualms and natural doubts about, was this the right decision? You're kind of missing your old life. You're missing the independence of everything. But just kind of came in with that self-sacrifice and self-surrender and just self-gift of, okay, Lord, I'm going to just be present to you. And I'm going to be present to my brothers that I'm with and present to the people in my diocese. My own parish of St. Timothy brought a huge, huge group of people, which was awesome to see. And that really cemented me back into being in formation and discerning Christ's priesthood, and beautiful way to do it within the context of the national church.
I would say for me, it was a thing that I kind of brought to prayer, being there, was putting the trust in the Lord. Just kind of strengthening my like friendship with Jesus in a way. I just think that there was no expectations at all, and just kind of seeing how much Jesus showed up, being there. And I think it's something that I reflect on a lot. And actually, I wrote on this in the Seeds of Hope magazine, that I kind of saw like a movement, like in a sense of like people moving, but also the church itself moving. And I reflect on like Bishop Stephen Parks from the Diocese of Savannah shared with us that he also reflected on what's the difference between like a parade and a procession, and in a way that like parades are like focused on like the individual, like it's like you're making yourself be known, whereas a procession is you're focused on Jesus himself. And so I think that was just something that was very beautiful. I kind of reflected on was like, what does it mean to have procession, and why is Jesus at the center of it? And just having that friendship with Jesus, that was something that really ignited within me while I was being there. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, no, I'd say also not having any really real expectations going in, just wanting to be able to absorb as much as I could so that I could give it back when I got home. Kind of the idea, like when I was there, what surprised me and became a part of my prayer. I guess it wasn't something I went in with, but little things. It's like you have 60,000 people there, and yet it was the little moments and wondering it, just seeing Jesus in the other people, the people that I encountered, my brothers, seminarians from my diocese that I encountered, other dioceses, just seeing like little encounters, watching two nuns laughing, or watching the group going off to holy hour, or just little moments where you take that joy or the experience that they're having and you can absorb it into yourself, and then reflecting on that, see where it's pointing, kind of thing. So it's like I guess in that sense, my prayer was kind of shaped by just being and just watching the other people there and how they encountered Christ, showing myself how to encounter Christ. So I would say that would be the biggest part for me.
Yeah. One of the craziest things that honestly I didn't take notice until a couple days in is how many people that I knew from so many different ministries across the diocese, different seminarians I've met across, just across the years, how much people that I knew throughout the whole conference that I was able to like recognize, say hi to them, have conversations, just every day of someone new. But it kind of like brought to my attention, like how crazy is it that you build these relationships in the church, you build these bridges towards so many different areas of the church, and you're able to sustain it through the Eucharist as like that common point. So it was just kind of beautiful. Some of what Michael was saying, just saying like in the little moments of conversation I had with a seminarian that I met for like one day at Seek, as I mentioned before, that it's like if it was like one day to the next as if, just talking to him. And so it's just beautiful knowing like what the Lord has done in my life, our lives, and for so many people as well.
I think coming out of that, you see how small the Catholic Church, or the Catholic world is, and yet how great and big it is. It's like you can go there, and from across the country, you didn't expect to see someone you knew from Michigan or whatever state they're coming from. And all of a sudden, you're like, wait a minute, you're here too? It's like we're all doing this same Catholic thing, and it's just wonderful when you really think about it in that context.
Yeah. So across from the whole conference, right, the talks, we've had a procession, adoration every night, the liturgies. What were like the couple things that really, really stood out? Whether it is the conference, a point in the procession, adoration, what was the key moments that defined and sort of motivated you from the conference to kind of go forth?
Yeah, I think I shared with you guys before we started talking about this that I had an opportunity of being a guardian of a couple of relics within the relic chapel they had. They had a piece of called Caduceus' heart, and then they had relics of the different saints that the four pilgrims herds were coming into one into India. So like they had the four of those saints and some other saints that are focused around the Eucharist, and within like just being like a guardian there, it was kind of explaining to people like what relics are and how to venerate relics. But it's seeing this huge line and being a witness to that, and be able to talk to people and kind of like explain relics to them that may have don't really know like the power of relics and how to pray with it. So I kind of asked for like, what is there certain things that we can pray for, and ask in intercession of these saints, like how can they pray for that intercession. And actually I was surprised a lot of it was like family issues kind of thing, that like people wanted prayer between like family brokenness within families. I think that was something very beautiful to see and be able to pray for, because that is like something like very real. But like seeing that like the people are coming and learning, and Jesus is pouring his mercy out on these people, and just seeing that that was like a beautiful moment to just be a witness to, and see how these saints can intercess for these people and their struggles. And secondly, like different times, like a small side story, I went to like the nearby church where they're doing adoration, and it was crowded. I was like sitting in the last pew, and similarly, like a lady sat next to me, and I made room for her on the pew, and we prayed, and she leaned over to me and said, "Hey, can you pray for something for me?" And I was praying for her son who was going through divorce and whatnot. And I had my breviary, and I had a little prayer card for the Georgia Martyrs. And the Georgia Martyrs, they're patron of like marriage and stuff. So I actually gave it to her. I said, "Hey, like just so you know, like let me pray with these intercessions, this prayer, and I'll definitely pray for them." It's just like this type of moments of like people just asking for prayer. It's like very, very, very real.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think something that sticks out in just about every seminarian's mind that went there is the procession. That just the sheer magnitude. I know I keep using that word. It was just thousands upon thousands of seminarians, priests, religious, bishops that are working and walking and just celebrating Christ in the middle of one of the biggest cities in our country. And twofold of seeing the faithful just lining the streets, and we were behind the religious and in front of the priests, and just seeing how excited they were to see seminarians. They weren't confusing us with priests. They weren't confusing us with monks. They knew that we were seminarians, and they were just sharing so much love and giving us high fives, and little kids running up and giving us high fives or giving us little petals of flowers and stuff like that, and just seeing how much love and support that we get from the people of God. And that was such a tremendous fuel for, just living in it and absorbing that love.
I'd say one thing that was cool with the procession is afterwards I went and watched it. There's like the drones that videotaped it. It's like in the moment you're just kind of there, and there's so many people all around us that you can't really move, and you're like looking and you're going. But then later to look back at it and be like, wow, the magnitude of this procession.
The fifth time we use that word.
Yeah.
Anytime.
The magnitude. Oh, but seeing it as like truly like a river flowing back, and then how at the end when we all knelt in the chairs, and then the monstrance processed up to that giant monument, the World War I monument, and you could just see the monstrance was so huge, and you could just see him from miles away. It was just amazing. But one other thing that really stood out to me again was just the sheer joy of there just being so many priests and religious. Like we said before we started, there was there were over 500 nuns there, and I forget how many priests,
So over
1,000 priests who attended, and just seeing the joy of their priesthood or of their vocation as sisters. And just like, it was just, to me, that was the most breathtaking thing, is just looking at them and just seeing like, wow. And then them stopping and always and wanting to talk and wanting to share their stories and wanting to include seminarians in it and lay people as well. And like everyone just all together in this joy. And it was just palpable. It's like something you could truly feel, the joy in the room. So
for the procession, some of the young adults from Miami, they scoped out the place before in terms of like, what's the best spot to take pictures? What's the best spots that going to be here, be there? And I didn't know what to expect in terms of seeing the people. Honestly, I thought it was going to be the procession and everyone behind, not kind of in the sides, and then at a certain point kind of like funnel through into the middle. There were people up in the buildings, second, third, fourth, fifth floor, in the parking garages, all there, like waving and just being so excited, knowing like going first religious and the seminarians, deacon, priests, bishops. Like it was a moment of joy and of gratitude for the vocations that we said yes, and so for the faithful as well, being participants of the church, and just a moment of unity within the Eucharist, and seeing like, the church is alive. Sometimes it's, in seminary, I'm going to say this for seminary, not in terms of like what our ministry is, but just in seminary, sometimes it's tough to see the church as active as she was in that event and for the Eucharistic Congress. And so it was sort of like, oh my gosh, like I don't even know what to say on all of this. And even through it all, there was this one moment, and I think I was actually standing next to you, Spencer. And we're looking around, the kids are going crazy, or they're giving us high fives. Like it's just pure joy. And at a certain point, we're walking, I'm kind of like taking it all in. There's just one lady, we're turning the corner, I'm looking around, there's one lady crying, tears, and she's like holding a rosary in her hand, and we kind of lock eyes, and she just kind of mouthed the words, "Thank you." And for me, I was just like, hold it in, hold the tears, hold the tears. Because to me, that was the church's response to my vocation, saying thank you, right? Like I saw in her the faithful. I saw in her the people in my diocese, God willing, the people in the parish I'll be serving.
Right.
Yeah. Like it was really like such an intimate moment, and just hearing those words, it was incredible. The whole thing was incredible, but really that moment for me was just like, wow. It was incredible.
Yeah, I think a point to that, I think like if you look at the whole like structure of the weekend, like back to that point, I think I was pointing pointing out was that like the movement idea, procession, and like even like starting from like the day one of like seeing the procession, people wrap around the building doing registration, right? And then like the procession, even like when you're going to conferences or going into church for prayer in the morning, for mass and different talks, like there's like a movement of like people going in one direction. It's kind of interesting to see, but like thinking about like how the procession was like, that was like the apex, the weekend, like that was like the center, and that was like the moment, and like seeing that and reflecting on that, like seeing the church itself like moving in that one direction. And I think there's just something very beautiful about that, like throughout the whole weekend, if you look at and see like different aspects of what a procession looked like, whether it was going to the like chapel or confession line, or so like seeing those lines, like it was like kind of beautiful to kind of see and like kind of pray about.
I wish just had the time for it as well. You mentioned the all the different routes that people took in pilgrimage to reach Indianapolis. Those like the four corners, as they say. I don't know if it went through. No, it didn't go. It definitely didn't go through Florida, and I don't think it went through Georgia. Did it?
A little bit.
Yeah,
land.
But I remember in the expo hall, just talking to some of the guys and the girls that were either knew someone who was in the procession to reach Indianapolis, or those who actually participated, and hearing those stories kind of like also solidified like the church is like vibrant, is active, is very much alive. And we kind of saw that every night in adoration. There was a different like aspect of the church, whether it was very solemn and quiet with chants, or just silence, or moved to a more like a praise and worship style. And it kind of like covered the vast like diversity within the church of expressing our spirituality. I don't know for you guys, my favorite night was the chant. That was, to me, it was just like, this is chef's kiss. So I don't know for you guys if you had like a particular like favorite night of adoration, or just all of it. It's still the Lord. So
I think I just love the variety of it. It was one thing like it's to that rah like praise and worship, like everybody's on their feet and the hands are in the air and everything like that, and you can just feel the energy swelling. You can feel that just intensity and joy and sort of glory of youth and everything, and then chant the next day, and then there was also like some Byzantine chants in there too, and then the next day a bigger emphasis on just silence before the Lord, where we had long stretches of just 60,000 people
utterly inside
silent. That was, I think, more impactful to me than the most beautiful chant they did.
Yeah, no, I'd say for me it was musically perhaps was the Gregorian chant day was I was like, wow, the choir that they had was unbelievable.
Shout.
But yes. But I would say even I forget, even I don't even remember what the music was that first night we had adoration, but just I'll never forget it as they processed the Blessed Sacrament up. He first comes into the stadium and they walk down and the lights are on, and then when the bishop put the monstrance onto the altar and all the lights went down,
yeah,
that was the most incredible. I got goosebumps thinking about it. Yeah, I'm like, that to me was just like, wow. It's like, there he is. There's God right there with 60,000 people all around him, and we're all quiet. And it's just, that was, to me, I'll never forget that moment of just like, well, we always have God in the church for adoration and things in our parishes, but just to have that moment of universal, like, awe at it with so many, it was quite something to experience that.
Yeah, I think that was what I was going to second that, like that initial, the first night, like the initial wow of like people being there and like seeing, like you see the wow of like how many people are here, but then like, yeah, that transition into adoration, there's like that extra wow.
Extra wow.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys felt this too. We kept mentioning like the 60,000, the magnitude of the event, but every night for adoration, And again, this is like some of like the seats in Lucas Oil Stadium were very like tight. Some of us are bigger than others. And so sometimes it was like, okay, I got to squeeze in here. It's kind of annoying to like, how do I kneel here? But the second that you kind of like just have that one-on-one moment with Christ in the Eucharist, once that adoration, you know, it's like we're in the middle of the holy hour, one-on-one. There was a moment where I honestly did not realize I was in a stadium. There was a clear moment in my prayer where I just felt like it was me alone and Christ. And I mean, at a lot of times, I think we are like, yeah, that's normal. Like in the chapel, even in the chapel here in seminary, I kind of think, yeah, it's just me in my own prayer in silence, closing my eyes, you know, normal. But there was something more profound and something more, I guess, tangible. Knowing in the back, right, the very, very back of my mind, 60,000 people are around me. I just felt very like vivid in my mind, like it was just myself. And again, the different nights of prayer is still sort of kind of flowed from that, of whether it was silence, whether it was the different music that they offered, or that night it was the prayers of reparation and healing. I believe it was from a priest of, it was a Benedictine priest. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That night too was so powerful. And I know me personally, hearing the Lord just telling me personally, remember me. That was like, again, tears all night for that one. It was insane. It's just the Lord has done so much in that, not only for us, but for so many people who attended, so many people who were witness to that.
And I think one thing to testify to it also was the fact that they did it very intentionally. Beauty was incorporated into the Congress. It's like, to be able to say you forgot it was a stadium is an impressive thing when you're in a gigantic football stadium. And to be able to make things feel small in a large space. And you have the altar, and the intention on the monstrance was a beautiful thing. The ark was meant to direct us to God. The altar with design, everything pointed us to where the focus ought to be, which was Jesus. It wasn't distracting in its gaudiness. It wasn't distracting in its minimalism, because sometimes we forget that can also be distracting in and of itself. It all just guided the viewer, the faithful, the penitent, however you came to the Congress, toward God himself and lifted you up. And then you were able to feel small and yet not diminished. So you were able to be in that moment and share it. With at times even forgetting that other people were sharing it. And then all of a sudden you turn and you're like, I'm with my brother or I'm with my sister in Christ, and we're all there too. So I would say to that point of forgetting that where you are sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Aside just from the size of the whole Congress, the production value and the amount of resources and the amount of staging and lighting and audio visual, like it was so perfectly done. And even stuff like all the street signs and all
the banners out there, the signs
and the giant banners across the street and everything like that. Like it felt like Catholic takeover of downtown.
Yeah.
And it was just like they had roads blocked off for us to have like a little congregation area and a little beer garden. And it was just a cool experience. I think that was the biggest surprise for me. I was kind of expecting like, oh, okay, it's gonna be like your typical like big convention where you got tables and stuff like that. And it was
huge.
Yeah, it was just like, yeah, it was really, really well done, and it all blended together seamlessly to make it feel just flawless. It wasn't too technical and it wasn't too stripped down. It was just perfect.
I think that's something I should reflect on too. That I think, like I said, like since the procession was like the centerpiece, right? And thinking about like after that moment, how like that transition into like out of the comfort of the stadium or the convention center into the streets of Indianapolis, and be able to like bring Jesus to other people that maybe just visiting the town, you know.
Oh yeah,
there was a NASCAR race going on the same.
There was, yeah.
So like be able to like those people are just, what's going on here? You know, like Jesus walked down the street. But it's kind of interesting to see like that's what the message towards the second half of the the Congress was, that was like the last words that we were sent off with is like, get out of here, kind of thing. Like go
forth.
Yeah. Bring Jesus back to your parish. And yeah, I think that's something that's very beautiful to connect to.
Yeah. I think that's a perfect way to sort of like close this up, where I believe Pope Francis says that the Eucharist in itself is it's like summoning us to go forth and be missionaries and like for the kingdom. Like go and actually be witness, testimony, go evangelize, go be that extra instrument of Christ to bring people into the narrative, bring them into the church, give them clear sort of doctrine, give them clear insight into what the church is and how loving and merciful our Lord is. And when you mentioned right now about like people being there on the weekend just for the NASCAR race and just for different things, they're there on the weekend. After everything was said and done of the event, me and the guys from Miami, we went out to eat. I forgot where. It was some like steakhouse. We saved the money up to have a nice dinner. We went out, and then they were asking us like, "Are you guys part of that whole thing?" And we're just like, "Yeah, we were part of the Congress." We're like, "Yeah, what was that about?" And so it was a moment of just again being a witness, but a moment of being an instrument to evangelize and to teach people. So I know, again, to kind of close this up, just a very few final thoughts up. Was anything done after the fact in your diocese to kind of be like, all right, this is our step now in the diocese to continue this mission?
Yeah, actually, I reflected on this also. There was a moment where some of the orders part of our diocese that were there were having like a dinner with Bishop Stephen Parks, and we actually were able to, Archbishop Gustavo Garcia Siller, he's from the Archdiocese of San Antonio, joined us for the dinner and was kind of talking with us. And the Diocese of Savannah this coming summer is our 175th anniversary.
Wow.
And so San Antonio just recently celebrated their anniversary. And so Bishop Parks was like asking Archbishop, like, what are some things that like he took away from celebrating his recent anniversary in that diocese. And he shared with us something very beautiful. It's kind of like really stuck with us. I think that's something that we've been praying about in Savannah, is that, so Savannah is considered a missionary diocese. Archbishop said that San Antonio recently was removed from the list as a missionary diocese because they're having funding and stuff like that. But he started tearing up as he was talking about losing the title as a missionary diocese, because that's what we're called to do, to be missionaries, right? And so he was like, you should embrace that as a diocese, that you are a missionary diocese. And so reflecting on that as a diocese for this next year, thinking about like our parishes that are not in Savannah proper, but outside, and bringing like those two together and being like an actual missionary within our own diocese. So it's kind of like a beautiful moment to think about that and pray about that and see how the reality, how diverse our community is within our own diocese. That's what this Congress was actually calling us to do, to think about as we go back into our parishes, how we bring Christ to the people too, in our own communities. So yeah.
Yeah, so our diocese very much is continuing that push of do what we did here back home.
Mm-hmm.
And I know as far as I don't know if it's changed or not, but we are already planning another Eucharistic encounter in 2028 for the celebration of the 500th year anniversary of what many believe to be the first Mass celebrated in the United States, which happened in our diocese right on the shores of Tampa Bay, where the Spanish explorers landed. And so it's going to be sort of the same structure. Like, we're going to have talks, we're going to have a big procession in St. Petersburg from that point to the cathedral. And it's going to be, just continuing to bring that Catholic witness to the public and to the people that don't really know that we're here.
Right. Well, we want to thank you guys for being on the podcast. Thank you for everything you've shared, your witness, your yes, also for your vocation. Thank you for everything. I don't know if you guys know this for the podcast. We always do our little spiel at the end. we kind of close off with the title of the podcast, and all of us together, we're going to say in formation. You guys really got to join us on this one.
Yeah, that's right.
So we're going to look at the middle camera, because now we got cameras. Look at that right there. We're going to look at the camera. And trust me, you're going to know when we're going to say together.
Is there like a in, wait for it formation?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
So
A natural.
again, thank you again. Thank you all for listening, for watching as well. Stay tuned for everything else we have in store for this year. And that being said, we're all just in formation. Take care, everyone. God bless.
Information, a seminarian-produced podcast from St. Vincent de Paul Regional Seminary with hosts Gabriel Campos and Michael Santos. Follow and subscribe to St. Vincent de Paul Regional Seminary's YouTube channel, updates for future episodes of Season 2. And please visit our website at www.svdp.edu/information-podcast for more information about this podcast and to see all podcast platforms we are available.